Hello everyone and welcome and Happy New Year! In this video I'm creating a very simple background with the bokeh effect. The technique I will be doing is all about masking and ink blending. Here are all the products that I will be using for the background. They will be all listed over on my blog. I'm using distress inks here, but any inks that blend well should work. You could even try watercolors if you do not have any inks. For this technique, you will need a tape that you can easily peel off the cardstock. I have here a masking tape from Tesa. This one peels off very easily, but a washi tape works great as well. You will also need either a circle punch or a circle die, or you can, for example, use hearts and make a background for Valentine's Day. And of course, if you do not have those, just draw a circle and then use scissors. So I started with creating the masks, the circle masks, and for that I used the punch and the tape. My punch did not punch through the tape. I also had troubles getting the tape out of the punch, as you can see here. So I did an extra step here. I taped the tape onto a separate cardstock and punched through all the circles, which was much easier and quicker. I held the punch upside down just to see where I'm punching so I can get as many circles as possible. Also, I'm using the size 3/8 inch punch. I also have a 1 inch punch, but that one was a little bit too big for the size of my cardstock. But you can use multiple sizes if you wish to. It will make the background even more interesting. Once I had all the circle masks cut out, I started attaching them onto the cardstock. First, I removed the tape, and to make it less tedious, because this is quite a tedious work, I used this needle tool. You can use a normal needle as well to lift the tape from the circle, and then I used my tweezers to remove it. And then I attached it randomly onto the cardstock. The cardstock I'm using here for the blending is the Canson XL watercolor paper. This was for me the most difficult part of the background, which might sound crazy to you as it's just placing circles across the panel, but anytime I have to do something in a random way, I struggle a bit. The questions in my head, shall I put this here, shall I put this there, how many, and so on. You need to decide for yourself how many of the circles you use and where you put them. You can use more, you can use less, and I will have the photo of my layout on my blog if you would like to use it as a reference. Once I had all the circles attached, I didn't use all I punched out. I started with the ink blending. I'm doing here a green-brown color combination, but you can use different colors if you wish to. This is completely up to you. I started in the middle with the lightest ink, the bundled sage, and then I applied a darker green, the peeled paint, and on the outer edges I applied a brown ink, the ground espresso. You can also go darker to lighter if you want. I'm just used to do it this way, from lighter to darker. I also sped this up as the application is rather straightforward, but let me know in the comments if you would like me to play it slower. I applied 2-3 layers of the inks, or actually it looks like I applied 2-3 layers, but I went over with the darker inks multiple times just to build a nice color. You can experiment here and apply 1 layer and then remove some of the circle masks and then blend the ink over them to make the circles less visible, but I thought I can always cover the circles later if needed. After I was done with the ink blending, I removed all the masks. If this is too bright for you, you can apply your lightest ink over the whole background first and then attach the masks. Next, I created something like a circle stencil using the circle punch and a separate cardstock. If you have an actual stencil, you can use that. And so it blends nicely, I covered it with masking tape, as the top of the tape is very slick, which is perfect when blending inks. But the tape is completely optional. Then I placed the circle stencil over the background and I was blending the distress inks over the punch circle to create more subtle circles. Also, some of the white circles I covered fully with the ink. I first tried it with the stencil, then I realized I don't need the stencil to cover the white circles. I just used the blending tool and the ink and I covered the circle. As I was creating the additional circles, I was switching between the ink colors, overlapping the circles. Again, this is a very random thing. So I will speed it up more and play some music so you can see the whole process, and I will be back once I'm done. I'm almost done with all the circles. I think the background looks amazing and there are so many color combinations that you can create. On my channel and my blog, you can find many distress ink color combination examples if you would like to get more ideas for these backgrounds. I will leave the links to it in the description below. And just because I make cards, you can create something else. I even created a background for my first planner page for 2023, for which I used a blue combo that I used for this card last year. And here is the planner page. For this one, I used also a bigger punch, the 1 inch. So I have 2 sizes of circles and I think it looks really nice. But back to the green background, which is for a card. So the next step is making a greeting. For my first card of the year, I like to make a thank you card, but you can use any greeting you want. I picked a greeting that will fit into a circle, as I thought having the greeting inside of a circle would suit the background very nicely. I stamped it and heat embossed it using a white embossing powder, and then I used this circle die from Sizzix. It has a nice border around it and I run it through my die cutting machine. The cardstock I use for the greeting is the Desert Storm from Nina. I thought that the circle with the greeting needed some color just to fit the background, so I used the ground espresso distress ink and I applied it just over the edges. I adhered the background on top of a card base using a simple double-sided tape, and the greeting I adhered in the middle using a foam tape. And for the card base, I used a craft cardstock. And the card is finished. Here is it in a close-up. I absolutely love it, and I hope you like it too and will give it a try. There are so many color combinations you can do, and you can also experiment how you created the circles. You could use a damp brush to soften the edges of the circles, or use a glitter brush to make them more sparkly. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in another video very soon.